Hey EcoFlow Delta Pro owners, tell me, has this ever happened to you?
Well, let me just plug in my solar panels. What the heck? Oh man.
It's pretty annoying, isn't it? Well, in this video, which I would not consider a how-to or anything like that, but I'm just going to go through how I decided to resolve this on my unit. Shipping this all the way back to EcoFlow didn't really make sense to me. The shipping's expensive. I'm on the other side of the coast, and I'm sure they would have happily swapped it under warranty program. And that said, as you can see, what I'm going to do in this video is not even really fundamentally changing the device itself. So should something more serious occur to this, I can quickly return it back to the way it was.
All right, so I'll go ahead and link them in the description, but there are a couple tear down videos of this unit on YouTube. It'll be way more in depth for what, if you really want to know how this thing's put together. But for the sake of what we need, it's pretty easy. The first thing we're gonna have to do is remove this rubber gasket which goes along the top. And to do that, all you need to do is get like a credit card or something like that in a corner. Maybe you can grab it with your fingernail, I don't know. I had to use a body trim tool like for a car. Simple as that. This can only go on one way, by the way, so when you put it back together, you can't really mess it up. The next thing we have to do is there are quite a few screws, Phillips head screws, on the perimeter of the top cover. So I'm gonna go ahead and remove those, and it'll be a jump cut. All right, so with the top cover removed, after removing the screws, it just simply pulls off and up. And up top, you'll find the MPPT solar charge module. And this is the input that should be on the back. But what I found after opening it was, and I fished out one screw here in this bracket. I have one more screw to find in here somewhere. That screw, these two screws that hold this bracket, which then press this port into the back of the unit, has broke. So we'll look at that closer when we get this back plate off. So we're lucky though. I noticed in the teardown videos before I even bought this unit, because I was curious how serviceable it was. Thankfully, they made the solar input cable a serviceable unit. So that gives us some options. So what you'll see here in a bit is I bought a new cable to just go in through the back and up into the charge controller with MC4s on the end of it. So we will talk about this a little bit more later, but for those into RC modeling, this is an XT60 connector, but more specifically an XT60i, the I meaning intelligence. And we'll go into that very briefly here in a little bit. But the big difference between an XT60 and an XT60i is that middle pin right there, which allows some sensing. Well, unfortunately, now we know we have to do a little bit deeper surgery on this thing to correct our problem. We will have to remove the side panels and then take that rear panel off. Mostly, I'm having to take the rear panel off because I want to find that loose screw. So to get the side panels off, it's pretty easy. You remove this screw, and the other side is very similar, and then that panel will lift up and out, straight up. Okay, we're now to the point with the side panels off. We need to take off that rear cover, mostly so I can spelunk out the missing screw. This panel is pretty easily removed as well. You've got 4 screws on each side there, and then 2 in the back that are out of frame at the moment. Go ahead and remove that and see if we can find our wayward screw. Good news, found the screw. Now we can take a look at the damage. All right, so the damage becomes very clear what happened here. The little blind holes melted in the plastic just failed. And I'm really not kidding to you folks. I plugged this thing in maybe twice and very gently, which tells me they were maybe broken from the factory, but either way, not a great design. So we'll go into what I'm going to do to mitigate it in a minute, but I just thought another thing I want to bring up. This came up in the teardown video I linked. The spade connectors being used on the main AC power input were super loose, like barely even touching on there. Like they just flopped out the second I even looked at them. So I'm gonna grab a pair of needle nose and crimp down the ground and also the live and neutral here to be on there quite a bit tighter. Now the connection they have going from the plug to over to their reset, to their whatever it is, breaker, I guess, relay, whatever it is tight. Can't really get those off, but the other ones literally just flop off. That's not great. All right, we got those spade connectors crimped down pretty tight. I feel much better about that. I also went ahead and put the rear cover back on. Our business back there is done at this point. Now that I've found that screw, we're just gonna be passing wiring through that back port up to the XT60i port, which we will do next. Well, up until now, I haven't really said what I'm gonna use, or shown, I should say, what I'm gonna use to fix this problem or work around it. And that is a 5-foot long XT60i to MC4 jumper cable, extension harness I should say, and it is in 10 gauge. I just figured might as well go big or go home on this, since I don't really want to have to keep opening up this thing, but that's what I'm going to use. Now that said, I owe a little explanation, I said, on what is XT60i. So long story short, what the Delta Pro is using this middle pin for is sensing whether it is quote unquote a car input or a solar input, and based on what it sees on this pin is it limits the amount of amps it's able to take in via the solar charge port, the DC input port. So if this pin is tied to ground, which on this cable it is, and I'll demonstrate that in a minute, it allows the full 12 amps that it's rated for at the rated voltages, whatever those are. I can't remember. So it's on the back of the unit. And if it's tied to the positive, it uses, or if it, okay, I should say, if it's tied to the positive or it sees nothing on that pin, it assumes that it's a lower amperage car input and limits you to 8 amps input. So real quick, just to show how these are wired from the factory, since this is for solar. Here you can see we have continuity from ground to the middle pin. Anyway, I tried to make that brief as possible. Sorry for the ramble, but that is what I meant by XT60i and the sensing. Okay, we're back after installing the patch cable. So I did not want to modify the port back there, which is going to be out of frame, but that's fine. It's just the standard port with nothing in there. So what I did was I unpinned the MC4s and routed them from the inside out. Put electrical tape around there, just, you know, down to about an inch from outside the port up into here, just for really paranoia. It's not like I moved this thing around a bunch, and then put a cable tie on there for some strain relief, just in case this ever got pulled on, and then plugged it into the MPPT controller board. So at this point, for me, this is basically quote unquote fixed. I use this as a poor man's house battery, which I'll probably make another video on. It's a little better quality than this format. But yeah, anyway, I hope this helps someone and at least gives you an idea of what happened and what went wrong in your Delta Pro, even if you decide to send it in for repair. Like I said, this is gonna work for me. I didn't fundamentally modify the unit, so if I ever really did need to send it in, I can put it back in the shipping box, which I still have, and send it to them with a clear conscience. So hope that helps, and thanks for watching.